आज से हर भारतवासी को अपने लोकल के लिए वोकल बनना है। लोकल के लिए वोकल बनना है। न सिर्फ लोकल प्रोडक्ट्स खरीदने हैं, बल्कि उनका गर्व से प्रचार भी करना है।
This speech of the Prime Minister saying vocal for local has been interpreted by many as an attempt to discourage consumption of foreign goods. Separately, there's also a clamour to boycott Chinese goods after increasing tensions between the two countries at the line of actual control. A well-known educationist, Soman Wangchuk, has been urging Indians through a video that has gone viral to stop buying Chinese products.
इस बार भारत की बुलेट पावर से भी ज़्यादा वॉलेट पावर काम आएगी। जो नागरिक पैसा खर्चते हैं चीन के सामान को खरीदने में। अगर हमारे देश के 130 करोड़ लोग और 3 करोड़ जो भारतीय बाहर के देशों में हैं, सब मिलकर भारत में और बल्कि दुनिया भर में एक बॉयकॉट मेड इन चाइना मूवमेंट या अभियान शुरू करते हैं, तो आज दुनिया भर में चीन के प्रति रोष है। हो सकता है कि सारी दुनिया साथ आए और इतने बड़े स्तर पर चीनी व्यापार का बॉयकॉट हो कि चीन को जिसका सबसे बड़ा डर था वही हो।
Now, separately, an Indian techie has even developed an app that helps users identify and remove all mobile apps that are made in China. However, this app has now been removed from the Play Store after Google said that it violates policies around deceptive behavior. Now, in another instance, the Kendriya Police Canteen had listed over 1,000 goods that are either imported from other countries or contain key raw materials that are imported from abroad. And they said that they will not sell those products. They, however, withdrew the circular in a few hours. Now, all these developments appear to indicate the government may want to discourage consumption of foreign goods. And in fact, Home Minister Amit Shah, while speaking to our channel, appealed to citizens to use only goods made in India. Listen in.
मैं तो अपील करना चाहता हूं हर भारतीय को कि एक निश्चय कर लीजिए कि हर भारतीय भारत में बनी हुई चीजों का ही उपयोग करेगा। कहीं पर भी इससे भारत में निवेश कम होने की संभावना नहीं है, निवेश बढ़ेगा और ये हमारा अधिकार है भी। 130 करोड़ की जनता अगर तय करती है कि आज से हम विदेशी चीजों का उपयोग नहीं करेंगे, तो मैं मानता हूं कि भारत की इकोनॉमी को एक बहुत बड़ा जंप मिलने वाला है।
Okay, so, the question we are discussing today is how should we interpret Atmanirbhar? Should we interpret it as encouraging Swadeshi goods? Should we interpret it as actively discouraging Videshi goods? How should we design policy? The electronics policy seems to only suggest that we should make India a good place to invest for foreigners so that we can service the world. So there are several interpretations that are coming. Joining me to discuss how to interpret Atmanirbhar, I have with me former Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog and more importantly, one of the world's best trade economists, Arvind Panagaria. Dr. Panagaria, we appreciate you joining us
Pleasure.
This evening for us, morning for you. So I first want to discuss this. There seems to be a move to actively discourage foreign goods. There was this press release from the Central Police Canteen, which got quickly removed, banning about 1,000 products, even made by people like Dabur and TTK and VIP, because they had imported items. Is that the way to go? Swadeshi, as the Home Minister said.
Well, my answer to that question, Lata, that is not the way to go,
Okay.
Meaning that, we want to engage rather than disengage with the global economy. That has been our policy, at least since 1991. Some sort of hiccups on the way, but largely that has been our policy. And so, to your specific question, is that the way to go? I would say no.
Okay. So how would you then interpret Atmanirbhar? How would you, okay, before I come to Atmanirbhar, because it's many things to many people, how would you interpret vocal for local? Even that seems to give the appearance that you create a non-tariff barrier against foreign goods. You don't ban them, but you don't use them.
Yeah. So I think we need to be careful here. First of all, politically, these are calls that are made in every country. Vocal for local is, and particularly in that speech by the Prime Minister, my own interpretation so far, and it may change depending on what actions come later. But at the moment, my interpretation of that speech is that the Prime Minister was speaking to the entire nation. This includes a very large farm population, rural population, and so forth. So to some degree, I see that as the Prime Minister making an effort to boost the morale of the country. And he's saying that, look, we need to become self-reliant. Implicitly, you could say that there was also a lot of clamor at the time about massively giving these transfers through direct benefit transfer and so forth because of the stress that was coming from COVID. Still, it's a continuing stress, of course. And maybe there was a message by the Prime Minister that, we are doing, we meaning the government are doing what we can, but it is also important for the people themselves to become self-reliant. Help yourselves too.
Okay.
So that's how I sort of see it right now.
No, that is a broad philosophical point. I'm at the moment only looking at trade and economic development issues, sir. So, is it possible that one way to encourage it, because we have kind of our back to the wall due to COVID and even the slowdown earlier, that you actively encourage Swadeshi in a way? Don't, actually ban foreign goods, but have these soft ways, non-tariff ways of discouraging foreign goods and giving a leg up to Indian goods. Yeah. Is that a safe way to go?
Yeah. I mean, look, political parties have their constituencies, and certainly BJP has an RSS constituency to which it may be addressing. As long, if this is simply telling people, oh, do Swadeshi, I don't get terribly disturbed by that. Okay. People are smart. They know how to spend their money smartly. And, I'm sure the policymakers also know that it is not so simple in today's complex world where we don't know what is made where and by whom.
Yes.
That they can really get people to consume only Swadeshi or even predominantly Swadeshi. And your example of the canteen actually totally illustrates that products made by Dabur got banned.
Yes.
So they couldn't quite figure, what was Deshi and what was Swadeshi. When, you look at the product as a whole, the product is not what is finally assembled. There is also the components which went into the product, and components themselves got made by steel or this, that, and the other. So what do you know? I mean, to look at any product, take a look at your laptop, look at your computer screen, television screen. All kinds of products from everywhere are coming in. So today's world,
so a non-tariff barrier would be difficult, you're saying. It can.
Yeah, well, people are smart, these are things that have been tried everywhere. US had a big, Buy American movement. But I don't think it led to very much in terms of impact.
Okay.
People really spend their money smartly. Okay. So I really think that in the end, it comes down to trade policy, what kinds of actions we see there.
No, now it's actually zeroing in on an boycott Chinese goods. This has obviously got exacerbated because of the border problems. Do you think that can be achieved? Because that is also one of the countries with which India has the maximum trade deficit. Is that something that can be managed with actual tariff barriers, actual policies, or non-tariff barriers like a general movement of don't buy Chinese goods?
I mean, if as I said, if people say that, oh, don't buy Chinese goods, I'm sort of not disturbed by that because I know the empirical evidence much too well to begin thinking that somehow this is going to have a major impact on purchases of the Chinese goods. So that doesn't disturb me. But as far as the economics of this is concerned, it makes no sense actually to, on economic grounds, certainly, political maybe a different one. I want to come to that as well. But on economic grounds, it makes no sense, that you buy goods where you get them the cheapest. And if the Chinese are selling us the goods the cheapest, then so be it. So be it.
Okay.
Purely on the economics of it.
Okay.
Politics, it was a different time when Mahatma Gandhi was launching a national movement. That was freedom movement.
Yes.
Everybody was totally with Mahatma Gandhi on that. And, as Prime Minister himself says that, a woman doing the charkha became a part of the national movement that, I'm doing this to promote the national freedom movement.
Okay.
But that's a very, very different movement, that comes once in a century.
Okay.
In peace times, these things, cannot be impacted by telling people that, China is fighting us on the border. Let's not buy the Chinese goods. So just think of our trade with Pakistan and Bangladesh and so forth. So much, particularly Pakistan. Even there is a lot of informal trade that happens. Indian saris go to the Emirates and they then get shipped back to Pakistan. And likewise, Pakistani dresses probably end up in India.
Yes.
So
okay. So, Dr. Panagaria, how would you have the Indian government address a fairly big trade deficit that we have with China? I mean, even Ganeshas were imported from China because they tended to be cheaper. And actually, I want to quote to you what one of the importers said, and he was quoted in a newspaper. He says that it costs 4 rupees a kilo for a shipment of cable to arrive at Mumbai from a city 300 kilometers away from Shanghai. But it costs around 14 rupees a kilo for that shipment to be transported from Mumbai to a factory in Noida. So, I mean, it does make sense to import because the transport cost itself is taking so much of a load within the country. So how would you have the Indian policymakers approach the issue of Atmanirbhar so that Indian goods become more productive?
Right. So I think to some degree you have answered the question by giving the example that the internal infrastructure is a problem. And the location of factories is too. I mean, if you locate a factory in Noida and want to then export, with the kind of infrastructure we have today, it will put you at a disadvantage. If you want to really export, locate yourself near the coast. I think that's what the Chinese have done. I mean, much of their industrial economic activity, manufacturing particularly, is located all along the coast in China.
Okay.
We have not made good use of our own coastal line,
advantage
line with, and that of course is goes back to 70 years of bad policies. I mean, in the end, we were very anti-trade from the beginning, and we tried to distribute, in the name of regional balance,
yes.
we tried to distribute these industries through
yes, backward area development, all those perhaps.
Yeah, you recall that. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, you're
all the
not
conditions
as old as
for licenses. I remember those when I was a student. Dr. Margaria, finally, what then would you advise the Indian government to do in terms of, encouraging local manufacturing and make India more competitive? Because just now an electronics policy has been announced. So what is the single point that India is getting wrong?
Yeah, no, there's never going to be a single point because so much is wrong in India. You see, we have such multi-layered regulatory policies that you remove one layer, next layer comes to still prevent you from doing what you want to do. So I don't believe in single point policies.
Okay.
There is a whole package of things and we need to do. We are not moving fast enough. I believe, I think, the whole package of things. I have written this book, India
Yes.
Unlimited,
Yes.
where I outline these. But clearly labor law reforms very important. Land prices extremely important. Where do you locate a factory? I mean, if you want a large-scale manufacturing facility, you need a substantial piece of land at good price. At least competitive price. So land, huge set of reforms to be done on land markets.
Okay.
And third, of course, the other third factor market, which is the capital. I think right now the financial system is also in great disruption.
Yes.
That needs fixing. So all three of those markets need attention, which is why I have been arguing that, look, start a few, 2 or 3 of these autonomous employment zones, which is not of the kind that the SEZs that we have tried before. Many of those became land grabs. What you want to do is take an area of 200 to 300 square kilometers and institute good policies in them. It's not, I don't believe that you have to necessarily do all kinds of SOPs, the subsidies and so forth,
You just
if
need
you provide good
clean
environment.
structural reforms.
Absolutely. If you provide good economic environment, and a couple of these zones you can locate near the coast, where then, the firms can bring in their inputs from abroad, process them, and ship them back out.
Yes.
So that's what you need. That's what we need. We need a good ecosystem. I think that ultimately is what is going to bring the large multinationals to our shores.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Panagaria, for breaking some bad ideas as well as giving us some good ideas. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to take a break. We're going to be joined by 2 other experts, Biswajit Dhar, the professor of Center for Economic Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and Ajay Dua, former DIPP secretary, to tell us how we can interpret Atmanirbhar and Videshi versus Swadeshi. We are back in a minute. Welcome back. We've been discussing how should we interpret the PM's call for going vocal for local mantra. We're also looking at how should one interpret Atmanirbhar and the Home Minister's appeal that Indians should buy Swadeshi to encourage jobs and industry in India. Joining me now are Biswajit Dhar, professor at the Center for Economic Studies at JNU, and Ajay Dua, former DIPP secretary and a development economist. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Professor Dhar, first to you. There is an anti-China tirade at the moment because of the border skirmishes, and it is also true that India's biggest deficit is with that country. Now, is there any way in which we can have tariff or non-tariff barriers to ensure that we don't have unfair Chinese competition?
No, I don't think you can use tariffs beyond a particular limit. And this is not the way to go forward, because the way to face the Chinese is to really become competitive ourselves. And that's the only way, and I've been talking about it for a number of years, that our industry is actually also agriculture has got completely uncompetitive. And that is the reason why China and other countries have made inroads into our economy. So the problem lies here. So I don't think that in this age and time we should use tariffs to really start blocking products from other countries. Rather, we should find ways of making ourselves more competitive. That should be the way forward.
Mr. Dua, let me come to you on this issue. I was just discussing with Professor Panagaria, will just a movement to ensure or to encourage people to use more Swadeshi goods help at all? That's what Sonam Wangchu is trying to do, the educationist and innovator. And that's what it looks like the Home Minister also hinted at, a national movement to prefer Indian goods. Will that help?
Certainly it will help to create a demand in India, but I think the issue right now before us is not exactly lack of demand. What we need to be doing, and as was just pointed out by the previous panelists, I think we have to be addressing the issue of our becoming competitive. Otherwise, by banning Chinese goods, whichever way, through maybe tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers, we would be doing a disservice to ourselves, to our consumers. They would get deprived of cheaper goods. They may be as good as ours, maybe better, but we can't follow that as a strategy to contain the imports from any one country. But having said that, as a long term, certainly we need to be reducing our import contents. We need to be reducing particularly the imports of 3 or 4 major items, crude oil, working on thermal coal, working on hard coke, which goes into steel making, met coke also, as it's called, working on defense equipment, and electronic items, particularly the consumer electronics. Electronics is something very wide encompassing. On consumer electronics, we can reduce dependence.
Yeah, that actually has been just announced by the government, and we had Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad elaborate that production-linked incentives that they have announced for the electronics industry, hoping therefore that more consumer electronics will be assembled in India. And of course, there's the big hope that Apple will be attracted to put more factories in India. But Mr. Dhar, you know, we often, when we want to encourage higher productivity and production in India, we are getting to issues like land, labor, and capital, which is, you know, a hard nut to crack. So do you think, how do you suggest is the way forward? Just earmarking large acres of land like Dr. Panagaria just suggested? Because resolving the land acquisition problems for the whole country is running into huge political opposition as well.
Yeah, I think, I don't think land is a huge issue actually, because, the government over the years, after the SEZ policy was announced, it's actually acquired huge chunks of land and all over the country, and most of that is not being utilized. What is the state of the special economic zones now? So I don't think that's a major issue. And I think, we've also been going the wrong way. Also, look at the labor reforms issue.
Yes.
Labor flexibility is there all over the streets now. The labor, you can hire and fire labor at any time. So I think, these two issues have just been, I think, played up, the real issues have not been addressed. The real issue is the infrastructure. And if you don't have adequate infrastructure, you're not going to be attracting either domestic investors or foreign investors.
No, so that point is taken. We pay more for power and we pay much more for logistics, as businessmen tell us, to get goods from point A to point B. And that certainly makes indigenous production much less competitive. But Mr. Dua, history tells us, how did the South Koreans capture markets? Because the chaebols were given so much encouragement. How did the Japanese capture so much? Because the Daihatsus were openly given a lot of encouragement. But that would also be a very thin line from cronyism and encouragement. How would you think India should be able to, cross that line without being partial to the rich?
Whether it was South Korea, Japan, or say Taiwan, as it used to be called at that point of time, they didn't have these issues of either population or a huge rural sector to be also taken care of. Something which for us is as much of a priority as developing the industrial sector or largely the formal sector. Having said that, I would say that I'm absolutely one with Professor Dhar that we are making too much of land and labor and issues in the country. We have given, see, Lata, you would recall when the government could not, neither the previous government nor this government could pass the labor legislation.
Yes.
Flexible, they left it to the states. Many states have made their labor laws flexible, yet have we seen the so-called anticipated progress there? No. Though I think the issues have been very well flagged.
Yeah.
We have to be becoming competitive.
Yeah, that's exactly what Professor Dhar also says, that we have overblown these issues.
What was Professor before that, Arvind?
Yes.
We have to worry about our logistics. You can't be spending 14% of your cost cannot be logistics.
Logistics, absolutely.
You cannot be paying for electricity, power, either unreliable supply from the grid, and if you set it up yourself, then you are making
I take your point, sir. Actually, infrastructure has to be productive. Actually, we are completely out of time. I just want one sentence from both of you. Therefore, Professor Dhar, how would you interpret vocal for local?
Look, I think there is a danger of interpreting this, the localization thing as import substitution.
Okay.
And I think we should be very
Steer
careful
clear
not
of
to
that.
just stay clear of that, because we neither have the resources nor the capacity to go in for our. We should not do import substitution at this point in time.
Okay.
So I think the policy has to be very clearly enunciated by the government as to what it's actually wishing to do, what its roadmap is.
Okay.
So there has to be more clarity from the government side.
Okay, fair point. Last word from you, Mr. Dua. How should we interpret Swadeshi and vocal for local then?
I would like to see gradual progress towards self-reliance in labor-intensive production.
Okay.
The Chinese production, let's not directly aim at them, but they've taken away from us a whole lot of inexpensive manufacturing.
Yes.
And you talked about Ganesha, etc. Yes, that's all easily possible, but let's not be in a hurry. Otherwise, we'll be doing ourselves a disservice. Certainly, the world is going to become a little more protectionist, as we have seen over the years, and maybe with the disruption of the supply chains, this process may get accentuated. But having said that, the criteria for us, if at all we want to give protection, is what is labor intensive.
Okay, fair point, sir.
What can we do here,
Fair
which is not going to be hurting our consumers beyond a certain point.
Fair point, fair point. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, out of time, Professor Dhar and Mr. Ajay Dua. Thank you very much for joining me. We've had some very good ideas from our panelists. Pick up a few industries, ensure that infrastructure is cleaned up, easier said than done. And as Dr. Panagaria said, at least try and resolve in some large tracts of land all the land, labour and capital issues so that Indian industry can be competitive, at least in certain sectors. We wrap up on this edition of Indianomics. On that note, thanks for watching.